A lot of people treat fictional stories as mainly entertainment and therefore something with very little intrinsic value. A comment that I commonly see on my YouTube channel is that, hey man, you know, Star Wars isn't real, right? The thing is, fictional stories can do quite a lot. They might be made up, but the ideas and the emotions that it draws out of a viewer are completely real. And in lieu of good conversation with a real living human, a fictional story can be very stimulating for the brain. It can inspire us, introduce us to new concepts that we might not have been interested in had it been packaged as an educational video or article. Now, I personally have always gravitated towards science fiction because I see it as one gigantic thought exercise about what the possibilities are for humanity's future. And given all the crazy advancements I've seen in my own short life, I can't help but wonder what inspires what. Does art inspire science? Does science inspire art? We're dealing with like a chicken and egg situation here. We have AI search bots now that are cunning enough to pretend to be human. They can create art and write stories. There's also exoskeletons now for rehabbing people with spinal cord injuries, robot dogs that can be your companion, drones that can deliver a package or a bomb to any place you want it to. Heck, we're even getting close to figuring out nuclear fusion energy. It might even happen within the next century. Which makes me wonder how many of these scientists, researchers, innovators were inspired by books and movies when they were little. What made them so creative? What fed their curiosity for the wider world? What made them such great innovators? I'd like to think that a lot of these individuals watched films like Star Wars growing up, which is why today I want to take a look at some of the most brilliant engineering designs within the Star Wars galaxy. Now, before we get there though, a quick word from our sponsor for today's video, ownersaber.com. They are one of the premier destinations for some truly awesome replica blades that are designed with quality and attention to detail. From this baby right here, the Dark Majesty, you can tell by the curved blade that it is Count Dooku's preferred lightsaber. He had his lightsaber held custom designed so that it was in line with his arm as he held it so it can carry out Form 2 Mikasi thrusts and parries. It's all about precision with him. Ownersaber.com also has the Chimera, a blaster lightsaber, which was used by Ezra Bridger. It definitely has a very unique and easy to identify look. And then there's the Kanan, which of course is Kanan Jarrus' blade. Kanan Jarrus' lightsaber, like a lot of props from the Rebel series, was most likely modeled after some of the early Ralph McQuarrie concept art. The laser swords back then in those pictures had thinner blades and that circular guard we see on the Kanan. I also want to mention that ownersaber.com will now be providing Afterpay at checkout for those of you who want to split up your payment for the lightsaber into 4 to 6 weekly payments. You have to be at least 18 to use Afterpay, and although there are no hidden costs or interest, if you do miss one of these payments, there will be big late fees. So please be careful when using services like this. You gotta be financially disciplined, all right? Also, all lightsabers right now are 30% off with free shipping, and you can use our promo code EWOK for an additional $15 off of your purchase. Thank you for your patience. On to the rest of the video. In the excellent novel Catalyst, we follow the life and career of Galen Erso, father of Jyn Erso and galactic authority on crystallography. Galen Erso was a man of science, and so he often ignored the political ramifications of his research until it was too late. He had come up within the Republic scientific community with Orson Krennic, and at one point these two were close friends and schoolmates. Krennic was more of a project manager type rather than an innovator, and he would be placed in charge of a program named Project Celestial Power. This is supposedly an Imperial project, civilian project, that was supposed to provide cheap and sustainable energy to war-torn worlds that were battlegrounds during the Clone Wars. There are a lot of these planets after the Empire rose. The idea was to use Kyber crystals and their unique property to amplify energy. Up until Order 66, the Jedi Order had jealously guarded these mysterious crystals, and every large deposit and mine of the material that could be found across the galaxy was controlled by them. And so Galen Erso, for most of his career, could not touch these highly prized crystals, and so when that opportunity was given to him by Orson Krennic, along with unlimited funding for his research, Galen Erso jumped at the opportunity. His research was focused on creating net energy gain by using these Kyber crystals. This means the amount of energy emitted by the Kyber should be more than the energy that is shot into it. This kind of reminds me of humanity's own attempts to create net energy gain through the use of nuclear fusion. Forget all this noise about green and sustainable energy or fossil fuels being the future. Nuclear fission and nuclear fusion will protect both our economic and environmental future. There's always a better way. If only we could get rid of our irrational fear of this type of energy. Now, the Empire wasn't lying when they wanted Galen Erso to figure out how to use the Kyber crystal for energy amplification. But they were lying, however, about the usage of this technology. It wasn't going to create sustainable energy, it was going to create a super laser that could destroy entire planets. This shows us the duality of any piece of great technology. The energy amplification properties of Kyber crystal is astonishing, but it can be used for great good and great evil. On paper, the Mount Calamari cruiser should now be able to exchange broadsides against the fearsome Imperial-class Star Destroyer. This 1.6-kilometer Imperial vessel was basically a battleship. It had 60 heavy turbo laser batteries and 60 ion cannons. It was enough firepower to overwhelm most ships that were twice its size. The best shot the Rebel Alliance had against such firepower was just avoidance, and so they would use smaller snub fighters and slash-and-run attacks. But as the war matured and the Rebel Alliance got access to more Mon Calamari star cruisers, suddenly the Rebel fleet was able to stand and fight. Now, no two MC cruisers are built the same, and that's because many of these vessels started out life as underwater civic buildings on Mount Cala. They were refitted for deep space travel and combat when it became apparent that the Empire would not leave this ocean world alone. Two major Mon Calamari exoduses occurred, one in 18 BBY during the initial invasion of Mon Cala beneath the command of Admiral Radis. A second wave of Mon Calamari ships joined the rebellion after the death of King Li Char in Imperial captivity. This happened in 1 ABY, and this second fleet was mainly made up of ships from the Mon Cala mercantile fleet. Normally, vehicles designed for civilian use cannot compete with vehicles designed for military use, and that is because of the strength of the material and just how the designs are made in the first place. As great as the Toyota line of pickups are, you're going to void your manufacturer warranty if you install an MLRS system on it, or turn it into a droid launch vehicle, or strap a M40 recoilless rifle onto it. That's probably going to throw off the alignment a little bit. But since all Mon Calamari ships were designed for underwater usage, the hull on the MC-80s were exceptionally strong and designed for the depths of the ocean of Mon Cala. The strain that vacuum puts on a hull is nowhere near as intense. An added benefit of the stronger hull meant that the Mon Calamari ship could handle more air pressure and humidity on board when traveling in space, which meant that it probably smelled very fishy on board of a Mon Calamari cruiser. The Mon Cala also preferred using a layered system of smaller shield generators rather than a few large ones, as was common on Imperial vessels. These smaller shield generators were definitely a lot less robust, but because they had a shorter recharge time, it was basically impossible to whittle down the MC-80 cruiser's defenses completely. It was just constantly recharging. The Imperial-class Star Destroyer was supposed to represent the might and wealth of the Empire. It was designed to instill fear into the hearts of the Empire's enemies and rout them before they could even carry out an attack. Which is when they would run into the humble TIE fighter produced in the millions. It was designed to remind the Empire's enemies that there was really no place to run. Now, Senior Fleet Systems was hand-selected by the Emperor himself to build the TIE fighter and its manufacturing line. It's kind of weird because Senior Fleet Systems was a boutique ship manufacturer, and they mainly focused on high-end, high-tech vessels which were created in very small orders. Mass manufacturing wasn't really something they did, but these individuals, their design team, their engineering team, were full of innovators and industry leaders. And so, if anyone was going to change up how starfighters would be built and how their manufacturing was done, it would be Senior Fleet Systems, or maybe Incom. Now, the TIE fighter's design had been built on the lessons of the Clone Wars when it became clear that more expensive and larger fighters like the three-man ARC-170 Starfighter were too vulnerable to smaller fighters and difficult to replace. During the Battle of Coruscant, Nimblers, short-range interceptors ravaged the Republic's ARC-170s. Smaller Republic fighters like the V-19 and Alpha 3 V-Wing performed far better. This is where the TIE fighter's design philosophy comes from, but far more impressive than its performance or lack of shields, hyperdrive, full-life support system was the TIE fighter's manufacturing process. This is really the Empire's biggest and boldest move. They would nationalize much of the galaxy's military-industrial complex. They would unify a lot of the resource-gathering abilities and logistics of the Empire under one large organization. By centralizing everything, they were able to build a TIE fighter at a scale that was truly never seen. This centralization of the TIE fighter program lowered the cost of a fighter to just around 60,000 credits, or about a third of the cost of your standard Rebel X-Wing or A-Wing. This came at the cost of Imperial laborers, of course, who were paid with slave-like wages and forced sometimes at gunpoint to obey. Yay, economic fascism. No, but seriously, the TIE Fighter was built from ground up to be a cost-saving platform. For instance, its twin-ion engine was revolutionary because it had 0 moving parts, which drastically reduced wear and tear on the system and made repairs and maintenance extremely easy. Most people just focus on the upfront cost of a fighter and think that's it. What they don't realize is most of the cost for operating a fighter comes from maintenance. You see, your average 4th generation fighter here on Earth might have a rotation of 2 to 3 pilots, but they'll have a ground team of around several dozen people. The Rebels were famous for using home-built X-Wings, Clone Wars era Y-Wings, and the always finicky A-Wing, and so their maintenance costs compared to the Empire was just immense. The TIE Fighter might seem like a joke to most pilots because of its lack of survivability, but for engineers, this is a design that is extremely efficient and therefore beautiful in their eyes. What most people don't realize about the Clone Wars is that when the Separatist Alliance launched their attack on the Outer Rim in an effort to strengthen the Confederacy, it was planetary defense forces and local militias that put up the first line of resistance. The hope of these localized forces was that they could hold the line long enough until Republic reinforcements arrived. This was the true purpose and role of the Grand Army of the Republic. When you build an expeditionary unit like a Clone Legion that has to deal with all sorts of environments ranging from vacuum to jungle planets, one needs an extremely versatile combat vehicle that can increase the range and fighting efficiency of the average clone infantryman. Rothana Heavy Engineering, a subsidiary of Quad Drive Yards, was in charge of designing a multifunctional vehicle that could serve all of the clones' needs. This turned into a complete integrated vehicle system that included the LAAT, or Low Altitude Assault Transport. These stubby wing gunships could fly from orbit to the ground under heavy fire, deposit an entire platoon of clone troopers, and then stay on station and provide fire support as long as the Republic has local air superiority. There was also another variant of the LAAT that was missing a crew compartment, and in its place, it could take an entire ATTE Walker. The All-Terrain Tactical Enforcer was a vacuum-sealed, pressurized combat vehicle. It could perform in space, on land, and theoretically underwater as well. The vehicle used 6 legs that could traverse all sorts of terrain and even had magnetic cloth feet that allowed the tank to scale vertical walls. The ATTE featured several anti-personnel blaster points and a large mass driver cannon for direct fire support. This cannon could fire a wide range of different types of projectiles for different types of targets. Both the ATTE and LAAT could also directly deploy the mobile ATRT, a 2-legged recon walker that was extremely agile and quick. This scouting walker could also be used as an extremely mobile artillery platform because it featured a mortar system. And so the Rothana Heavy Engineering Integrated Combat Vehicle System was able to turn a platoon of clones into a mechanized unit that had combined arms capabilities. This is one of the main reasons why the clones were able to fight off droid hordes many times their size. The Rebel Alliance had the will to fight against the Empire. That's what made them special. There were tons of disgruntled Imperial citizens all across the galaxy ready to pick up a blaster and take potshots at their local Imperial garrison. But galaxy-wide wars are not won by infantry forces, but by the Navy's ability to project power to multiple star systems. And the Rebels, from day one, had a huge problem finding pilots to fill their advanced snub fighters. The Empire had a monopoly on training fighter pilots, and had built an excellent academy system to train pilots. Now, later on in the war, more Imperial pilots would defect and join the Rebel ranks, like Wedge Antilles, for instance. But in those early days of the war, all the Rebel Starfighter Corps had at its disposal was a small group of Planetary Defense Force veterans, like Garvin Dries and Antok Merrick. They were given the massive challenge of turning civilian bush pilots and freighter captains into fighter jockeys. Merrick and Dries hated the TIE Fighter program and saw it as very unimaginative. When several key members of the Incom Corporation design and engineering team defected to the rebellion, bringing with them the T-65B X-Wing, or at least the prototype for that, the rebellion quickly jumped on to that platform. Why did they do that? Well, it wasn't just the X-Wing's flexibility, it was also because Incom purposely designed the control surfaces of their vessel to be the same across their entire product line. That meant that if you could fly a Z-95 Headhunter, which was a popular local defense fighter, or an ARC-170 starfighter, an advanced Clone Wars long-range recon craft, Or more importantly, the T-16 Skyhopper, one of the most popular civilian airspeeders in the Outer Rim, then you are most likely going to be comfortable with the T-65B X-Wing's controls. I mean, how else do you think Luke Skywalker was able to so easily jump into an X-Wing and pilot it around like a boss? It wasn't just the Force, it was Luke's experience with the T-16. So there you have it, guys. 5 very interesting designs in Star Wars. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know in the comment section below which one you like the best. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy,